Thank you for watching my video. Today we are going to be talking about startup costs. So you want to start a business and you don't know where to start. So where we're going to start today is startup costs. The first question I have for you is, what is a business and why do you want to start one? Well, the primary goal of a business is to make a profit. Now, why you want to start one, that's a question you have to answer. And what you need to look at is, what kind of business do you want to start? Who are your customers and what kind of product or service are you going to offer? And that has to be the first thing that you need to identify, because those things will really dictate what startup costs that you need to consider. Maybe you've heard this expression, it takes money to make money. This is true. But I always cringe a little bit when I hear this statement, because often it's used as a justification to spend money, especially when you're starting a business, to spend on things that you want to have, but aren't really necessary to starting that business. So what are startup costs? What is really necessary to get started? Startup costs are simply what costs need to be incurred before you can open your doors, before you can take money from your very first customer. And oftentimes, if you think about it, there are ways that you can get started with very little startup costs. Now, that's not possible in every case. For example, if you want to be a rancher, you can't just start with one cow in your apartment. You're going to probably have to incur a lot more startup costs than that. But if you want to provide a service that you already have skills for and the tools for, there might be a very minimal cost to getting started. But what I want to challenge you to do today is think about, what is the bare minimum that I need to spend to get the doors open and take in revenue from a customer? And then why do startup costs matter? Well, it matters because it's really going to help you clarify your revenue model. And what a revenue model is who are you going to charge and on what basis are you going to charge them? Are you going to charge them a flat fee? Are you going to charge them an hourly rate? Are you going to be in a retail store selling items marked up for sale, that type of thing? So it really matters in getting clear about what it takes to get started, because you're going to have to recapture all of those costs before you make a profit. So then the next question is, how much money will you need to get started? And where is that money going to come from? So the key here is, when you identify this will help you figure it out, because maybe you have some money set aside, but maybe you don't have enough once you start looking at all of these startup costs. You're going to have to think about, where else can you get that money from? Are you going to be starting a side business, meaning that you're going to keep your job going and that this side business will be funded basically from money from your job? Or are you going to borrow money from the bank or family members or friends? Or are you going to try and get investors? And then the last question is, how do you take that money that you're going to invest and turn it into more money? Because that, again, is the specific goal. Take that money, make more money. So let's talk about the different kinds of expenses that you're going to have. And so what you want to do is sit down and just have a brainstorming session. Think of all the things that you need to have before you open the doors. Now you can write them down on a piece of paper. You can use a mind mapping tool. You can create a spreadsheet. Maybe you have sticky notes on the wall. Whatever you want to do to capture your ideas, just write down everything that you can possibly think of. Now, the different items that you're going to need are going to vary with the kinds of businesses that you want to start. But most people are going to have some kind of legal and accounting expenses that you need. Maybe you need to have a website. Maybe you need to have a building or a warehouse to house your products. Maybe you need equipment. What about employees? For example, if you have a retail type business, you can't just open your doors and then go out and hire employees. You probably have to hire your employees first, get them trained before you open your doors. So that's going to be a startup expense, that training and initial time for your employees. And then advertising. How are people going to actually find out about your business? Now, once you have this list, you can start estimating the costs of each of these items that you're going to need. But there's one thing that I didn't put on this list that most small businesses forget about, and I want to specifically talk about this item: working capital or cash. Now, how much you need of this is going to be depend on the type of business you operate and how you're going to operate it. For example, if you have a retail store, you're going to need inventory, and you're going to have to be constantly replenishing that inventory as you sell. And so you're always going to have some amount of money, some amount of capital invested in that inventory. What about accounts receivable? If you are going to be, accounts receivable is simply money that your customers owe you. So any business that you are collecting payment after the service or product is delivered, you're going to have accounts receivable. You're going to have expenses of delivering that product or service, and you're going to have money to pay those expenses while you wait for your payment from your customers. Now, how much capital you need depends on how much you're selling and how long you're giving your customers to pay. So it makes a difference whether you're giving them 30 days to pay or 60 days to pay. You're going to be floating them that money that you need to have on hand to keep your business running until they actually do pay you. And then the last item is what I call runway. And that's the cash that you need to get yourself off the ground. There's always going to be this gap between when you open your doors and the time that you're actually bringing in enough revenue on a consistent basis to cover all of your expenses. So between the time you open your doors and the time you actually get to break even, you're going to be burning through some cash. And you need to have a way to cover those expenses till you can get off the ground. Too many businesses neglect this, and they think as soon as they start selling something, they'll be fine, but you always have that gap that you need to account for. So now we're going to look at these costs and figure out the next step of where that money is going to come from. And the reason I ask this is that you know, once you've figured out how much this is, you need to look at how much you have. Are you going to be able to self-fund? Again, are you going to be able to fund it from your current job? Or how are you going to identify where that money is going to come from? Now, if you're going to get a loan from a bank or someone else, they're going to want to have these numbers, and they're going to want to see that you have them all written down, that you've thoroughly thought these things out, that you've made realistic assumptions about what it's going to take to start your business. And then they're going to want to look at your revenue model. Like I talked before, how are you going to get money to come back into the business? And does it seem reasonable that you're going to be able to make your money back? Because again, that's the goal, making that profit. And if you're going to go with investors, they're going to want to know the same thing. You know, they're going to want to see the detail. Make sure you haven't missed anything. Make sure that you're being realistic in your assumptions, because everybody's going to ask you the same question. And you should be asking yourself the same question. How do I get my money back? Because this is the goal of your business, to make a profit, to get the money back that you invested in that business and make it into more money. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like to get notification of more videos when I post them, you can please subscribe to my channel. Or you can go to my blog at MaryEllenMiller.com, where I have a lot more information on topics like this. And if you have a topic that you are interested in me covering or answering a question for you, feel free to email me at me@MaryEllenMiller.com. Thank you for watching.